We're right across Moi Avenue. It's a Friday, obviously the hustle and bustle of Nairobi. This is central to it. But another reason why this area is so important, let's go back to Wednesday, June 25th, 2025, the one-year commemoration of the Reject Finance Bill protests. A lot of us were carrying the spirit of the commemorative spirit, right? By 9, 10 a.m., the streets were full. People were actually in high spirits. People were coming here to commemorate. We were able to witness it by some of us who are just outside Nation Media. I was there a little bit with Mariam and a few other people. And by the time it was getting to afternoon, something had significantly shifted, right? By the time darkness was falling, looting, assault, and death. And I need to prefix this by saying it's Friday and I've just come out of co-hosting Fixing the Nation on Nation FM and NTV with Eric and Mariam, and we were hosting Jerry Migwi. Some of what Jerry has told us on the show today will stay with a lot of us for a long time. The scale of terror that's been meted out, the weaponization of women's bodies, the direct targeting and execution of young men. In Jerry's case, it was about the fact that a lot of the reports that were coming up on social media, a lot of women saying, this is happening to my friend, this has happened to me. Gang rape, and it's important that perhaps I put a trigger alert for this video. She said that out of the 13 cases that had been reported to Usikimye, majority of them were gang rape, and this all happened later on in the day.
Majority of these women, out of the 13, 11 were gang rapes. The modus operandi was for 4 of the women, they were grabbed off motorbike by a gang of I'm going to say goons, because some had pangas, machetes, and some had sticks, and they raped and robbed the women. So there was that sense of helplessness.
The reason I wanted to do this video was for about 2 to 3 reasons. One is to take stock and just reflect on what I'm thinking and feeling since Wednesday. The second one is to count the actual cost of loss. And the third is to say, I truly believe we're being pushed to a corner as citizens where we're becoming so reactive that it's going to be difficult to discern who is genuine and who isn't. So I had to start with the prefix that we just come from Fixing the Nation. We also spoke to Boniface Mwangi today. We'll talk about that later.
I think we need to move to the ideological phase of this movement, where we need to be ideologically grounded and say, if you want a new Kenya, how does a new Kenya look like? If you want to have a reset, how does a reset look like? What's that new Kenya we want? And then we have to become the Kenyans for the new Kenya.
So as a mother, as a citizen, as a journalist, it's such a mix of emotions to grapple with, trying to make sure that you're staying impartial. I don't know that these are the days for impartiality, while also trying to reconcile how we descended. I'll be making reference from time to time on my phone. One of the things that I want to speak to as I reflect, point 1, is the pattern of response we're seeing. The very visible and obvious hiring of goons to perpetuate state violence. And another reason why it's significant that I'm here is because across there you can see repairs happening for some of the shops that were looted. Our heart breaks with a lot of the traders. We actually also hosted Wamboi Barire, who is the CEO, to ensure that traders' voices are heard. And it's heartbreaking to see the scale of destruction of property. I want to also mention that I think to say that the protests turned violent isn't the whole truth. I say this on the show. What security agencies should have been doing is protecting protesters and containing rioters. And unfortunately, what happened, a lot of these guys will tell you, there was nobody protecting their shops. There was a focus and target, a lot of us believe, on protesters. There was already incitement. There was already planned disruption of the protests. We saw a media house release a scathing report that showed that people were planning this, people from within government or who are allies too. So this was sponsored. And I say this in a way that is so, again, just trying to reconcile, wanting to say, I want to get the full story, but I almost already feel like I know the full story. And it did not help that the CS for Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen, called it a coup. And if you think about 2024, June 26th, or 27th, President Ruto called it a coup. So if it's a coup in 1 year, why hasn't anybody been arrested? So I'm reflecting on what I'm seeing, not me, what a lot of us are seeing is patterns of response towards dissent, and that it's not about the service protecting. Let's take a little bit of a walk and go into reconciling the cost. We've talked about the cost of destruction and looting. We'll also show you pictures as we talk about this. The cost of lives lost, as of today, the number is 16 people. It's reported that 16 people have lost their lives, and in the Daily Nation it showed the initial faces. And we ran stories of families completely heartbroken. One person was just going to pick their younger sibling. And the mom said after some time when he hadn't come back, she was confused, so she went out to continue the errand, only to be met with somebody saying, oh, by the way, yule mse wako, amededi, he's been shot. Tried to go and get justice in the police station, only to be frustrated until midnight, and that was the first time she was able to see her son's body. So the cost of property loss, the cost of life, the cost of peace. Nobody can ever convince a majority of us that these protesters and the demonstrations have always started from a place of peace. They always have, and then they're infiltrated. And the cost of security. Let's go back to what people like Jerry said. Now remember, if security agencies are focused on quelling what are actually peaceful protests turned riots, it means that what you're doing instead is deflecting or redirecting attention from the crimes that are actually supposed to be solved. If there were security agents outside of the shops, they may not have been looted. If there were security agents patrolling the streets, women would not have to have been dragged and raped. If the security agents are patrolling and making sure that people are getting home safe, young men wouldn't have been shot execution style. One of the things that I'm not kidding you guys, one of the things that I'm grappling with so much is what happens beyond the sirens and beyond the darkness. Hiyo kitu imenisumbua, because it means right now I'm talking to you about the protests. Right now I'm talking to you about the reports that are emerging. But what's happening in hospitals where people are unable to access services because they've been disrupted, because UHC workers haven't been paid? What happens in those areas where pedophiles have been released and now they're already terrorizing communities? What happens to the areas, what happened to the courts that were torched? We saw CJ Kome patrolling an area where they torched a court. Those files and documents contained criminal cases, some of them. So what happens now? You guys need to begin to understand the cost, the mounting cost that this is going to cost us. But I also need us to stop gaslighting protesters. It is valid we had rioters who should be held accountable. Shame on them. They destroyed property and they terrorized Kenyans. But by gaslighting protesters, we're also diminishing the memory of the 60 who died last year and diminishing the push for justice, the push for not being overtaxed, the push for security, the push to be seen and heard, the push to access education and healthcare. That is going to be the biggest cost. And it may sound like I'm being so extra right now, but I'm seeing 6 to 12 months from now, if these issues are not addressed, we're really going to begin to see the toll that it takes. And finally, I want to speak to what we should now do. Where do we redirect this energy? Where do we redirect this anger? Okia Mtata came on the show and said, we need to avoid an uprising and look towards a revolution. I really like that he said that.
Kenya should avoid an uprising. We should have a revolution. This anger must be channeled to a revolution, not to an uprising. Because the danger with an uprising is that it's chaos.
And I wrote a few things that I think we can be doing right now as we continue to hear the reports and get them. We need to grieve together. I love the fact that you can say grief is data because it tells us where to focus, right? We need to share resources, bail funds, mental health, safe houses, food, supplies. All these traders are going to need us. Whoever can come through, I've seen some amazing campaigns online of people saying, tell them to email me, tell them to email us. So please, whatever you can do to share funds and resources, do so. Tell the truth. Archive evidence. Make sure all around you you're able to document what's happening, because at some point we're going to need to bring that out and interrogate the issues that are affecting us. Live while staying engaged. Listen, we're going to have to live a duality, guys. Right now, I've come out as a host of a show. So while I'm carrying out my business, going home to run errands or be a mom, I also have to stay engaged. And I don't want to gaslight anybody who's been saying, I don't want to be engaged. It's okay, you don't have to doom scroll. It's okay, you can take your 1 or 2 or 3 days out of social media. But stay engaged, because a lot of lives are counting on us staying engaged on what's happening. You can still live. You can still plan that birthday party and plan that graduation and go to that fundraiser. But stay engaged. We're all becoming active citizens. We have to pace ourselves. That goes back to what Senator Okiya Omtata said. You need to pace yourself. Revolution, and by the way, that word sounds so big and radical. Please don't look at it like a radical term. Not that radical is always bad. Revolution means that we are collectively pushing for better. So we have to do that. This is my invitation to you guys, not just to watch, but to also stay awake. Don't let fatigue win. This is the long game, and we have to stay informed and stay vigilant. Another thing I love to say is pay attention. So stay awake and pay attention. Support survivors. If you could hear what Jerry said, if you could hear what's happening, even what Femi said and a lot of people are saying, let's pour resources into making sure that survivors are supported. The families that were affected, where the young men were killed, how can we also make sure that we're supporting families? Build networks. How can we share information on safe spaces, online and offline? What are you doing? You know, every single one of us has something we can do. Please don't feel pressure. Is your skill set on social media? Use it. Have you done nutrition? We invite you to support in some way. Fundraising, resource mobilization, whatever it is, amplifying, staying vigilant. We need all hands on deck. Discern the voices. This is where we're really going to need people to think for themselves. There's going to be so many voices, so many voices, good and bad. How do we know who's making an honest push for progress, and how do we know who is instigating violence? The thing that a lot of our fixers this week have said, so many katiba, you guys. As boring as it sounds sometimes to always mention constitution, the reason we're in the Kenya today where there's a lot of chaos is because we went away from the constitution. So educate yourself so that you can think for yourself. So that somebody doesn't come and say, nakulipia hii 2,000, wende usumbe hao watu, wende uibe. And it's easier said than done, because I know a lot of people are not thinking for themselves when they're being hired as goons. I know. I'm not going to speak to say, I don't know what that struggle is. I probably will never know what that struggle is. But you went and torched buildings. So nobody has won. Those people who had families to feed, nobody wins. You need to stay informed. Don't wait for people like us and all the other people who do commentary to inform you. You've got to stay informed yourself. Defend the right to exist. Whether you're in media, whether you're in ministry, whether you're in business, whether you're in school, use your voice. Don't be afraid to use your voice. The two things that C.S. Murkomen said that are of concern as I wind up this video is that the media is fueling protests. The media is not fueling protests. The media is amplifying what our fixers around the country are saying, doing, and going through. And number two, we did not try to do a coup. There was no coup attempt. There was none. We're not terrorists. Protesters are not terrorists. Protesters are not trying to forge a coup. People are speaking and in a way that hasn't happened before. And I think it's scaring a lot of the old guard. So guys, if there's anything that you can take from this video is, number one, I'm just reflecting and saying there's a higher cost we're going to pay because security agencies are not all, but majority of our security forces are being redirected to things which takes them away from vigilance for the lives of people. Number two, there's a duality here that we're going to be able to live our lives while staying engaged. And number three is the 5 things that we can do, which is stay informed, build networks, share resources, use your voice, and document and archive evidence. It's official with Janet Mbugua. I'm signing off with goods. Angalia viazi. Angalia viazi. Na mahamri na chapati. Support traders where you can. That's why I'm saying I think it's going to take on all of us initially. Just where you can, just support. Stay vigilant, pay attention, stay prayed up. I didn't integrate a lot of the things that I've really been reading on and rooting myself in. It's not just the law, but faith as well. So I think it's the only country we know. So we have to fight for it the best way we can. But we can do it collectively, we can do it measured, we can do it sustained, and we can just do it by paying attention. So I'll see you around.